The iron chain bit deep into his wrists. Blood trickled down his arms and soaked into the forest floor. His breathing was ragged, shallow, his back pressed against the rough bark of the tree, legs numb beneath him. Every sound in the jungle, every twig snap, every rustle, made his heart stop for a second. But it wasn't fear of the wild that haunted him. It was the betrayal. Ranger Elias hadn't screamed for hours. His voice had long given out. Only silence remained now. Silence, and the slow crawl of regret. He tried moving again. The chains rattled. Pain shot up his spine. He gritted his teeth. Somewhere in the distance a branch snapped. Elias froze, then, low, almost imperceptible, a growl. It wasn't human. He knew that sound. Another growl followed, deeper this time, almost, like thunder vibrating through the earth. He closed his eyes. So this is how it ends. Then they emerged, golden eyes pierced through the foliage. 1, 2, then more. 4 lions stood just yards away, full-grown, fierce and focused, their manes thick, their bodies rippling with strength. One of them stepped forward. A massive male, his shoulder scarred, limping slightly on one leg. Elias's breath caught in his throat. He knew that limp. "Kuvu," he whispered, barely audible. But the lion didn't roar, didn't charge. He simply stared, long and hard, as if trying to remember. Elias's vision blurred. Blood loss, exhaustion, emotion, he didn't know which. But memories began flooding back. 10 years ago, a cub, thin, alone, trapped in a steel snare. Elias had found him during a routine patrol. The cub had been terrified, bleeding, growling in panic. Most rangers might have left it. But Elias hadn't. He'd cut the snare, carried the cub in his arms for miles, fed him milk with a bottle, sat with him at night when the little thing cried, in pain, nursed him back to health, gave him the name Kuvu, Swahili for scar, because of the long cut that ran down his side. For 3 months, they'd been inseparable. But Kuvu wasn't meant for cages. Elias had made the painful decision to release him back into the wild, far from villages and poachers. It had been the right thing, the good thing. But letting go of Kuvu had broken something inside him. Now, that same lion stood just feet away, bigger, fiercer, yet familiar. Elias could barely hold his head up. "It's me," he rasped. Kuvu blinked. Then slowly, cautiously, he stepped closer. The others followed behind him, their eyes fixed on the man chained to the tree. Another memory stabbed through Elias's mind, this time, recent. 2 days ago. He had discovered something he wasn't supposed to see. Illegal hunting camp, hidden deep in the forest, guns, skins, traps, and worst of all, collars. GPS collars ripped off of protected lions. He'd taken pictures. Enough to put someone behind bars for life, but someone had followed him. They waited until he was alone, hit him from behind, took his phone, beat him, then dragged him to this tree and chained him like an animal. "This forest belongs to us now," one of them had whispered before walking away. He hadn't seen a human since. But now, these lions. Kuvu reached him first, his massive head tilted to one side. Elias didn't flinch. Even if Kuvu tore him apart, he'd welcome it. It was better than dying alone, forgotten. But Kuvu didn't attack instead. He sat, right in front of Elias. His golden eyes never looked away. Then, almost silently, the lion leaned forward and nuzzled Elias' bloodied hand. Tears spilled down Elias' face. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be. But it was real. Kuvu remembered. The other lions circled behind. Not threatening, just watching, guarding. Elias sobbed. He hadn't cried in years, but now, chained and broken, he cried like a child. Kuvu let out a soft growl, not of anger, but something else. It echoed through the trees. And then, something strange happened. The lion began biting at the chain. At first Elias thought it was just instinct. But no, Kuvu was focused, precise. He was trying. Metal clanged. The chain didn't break, but the sound filled the jungle. And someone heard it. Not a lion. A man. A voice echoed through the trees. "Did you hear that?" Elias's heart froze. It was one of them. Kuvu growled louder now, his mane bristling. The others crouched low, ready. Elias tried to speak, to warn them, but his body wouldn't move. More voices. Closer this time. Must be animals. Let's check it out. Elias' breathing quickened. No. Not now. If they saw him still alive, they'd finish the job. Maybe even shoot the lions. He looked into Kuvu's eyes, whispered, "Go. Run, please." But Kuvu didn't move. A gun cocked in the distance. Elias shut his eyes, prayed it would be quick. Then the jungle exploded. Roars, screams, gunfire. Elias couldn't see much, just flashes of movement, claws, teeth, shouting men. A body crashed near his feet, motionless. Blood soaked the grass. Kuvu roared again, louder than anything Elias had ever heard. It shook the trees, sent birds flying into the sky, then silence. Only the sound of Elias's heart pounding in his ears. He blinked through the haze. One of the poachers lay still, his rifle crushed beside him. The others were gone. And the lions. They stood between Elias and the tree line as if forming a wall. Guardians. He didn't understand it. He couldn't. But they were protecting him. He wasn't just a man to them. He was their own. Elias slumped forward, darkness closing in. But just before his eyes shut, he felt something warm press against his face. A mane, a nuzzle, and a quiet, rumbling sound. Not a growl. A purr. Elias woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that made your skin crawl, like the forest itself was holding its breath. His eyes fluttered open, barely able to adjust to the light piercing through the trees. His body throbbed with pain, muscles stiff and torn from hours, maybe days in the same position. He didn't know how long he'd been unconscious, but the blood on his wrists had dried. His lips were cracked, throat like sandpaper. Then he felt it again. Warmth beside him. Kuvu was lying next to him, his massive body curled slightly, watching. Still. Patient. His golden eyes filled with something Elias had only seen in humans, concern. Another lion, a younger female, approached and dropped something beside him. It was a dead hare. Elias blinked in disbelief. She nudged it closer with her nose. It was an offering. Tears welled up again, unbidden. He couldn't eat. His arms were still bound, and even if they weren't, he had no strength left. But the gesture, it broke something inside him. Not in pain, in awe. These were apex predators, wild, feared, hunted, and yet, here they were, trying to feed a man. Suddenly a sound cut through the moment. A voice, faint, radio-like. Team 3 report. Anyone there? Over. Elias turned his head slowly. One of the poacher's radios. It had fallen near the corpse. Still active, still transmitting. Hope surged, wild and electric. He tried to reach it, but the chains held him firm. His fingers clawed at the earth helplessly, inches from salvation. Kuvu noticed. He rose, walked to the radio and sniffed it. Please, Elias rasped. Push it to me. As if understanding, Kuvu used his paw, gently, carefully, and slid the radio closer. It stopped just under Elias's hand. He strained, fingers trembling, and pressed the button. This is Ranger Elias, he croaked. I'm alive, chained near Sector 5. They tried to kill me. Need help. Static. Then, Ranger Elias? Is that you? Do not move. We're coming. Hang in there. The radio clicked off. Elias exhaled in relief, the kind that makes your whole body collapse. Help was coming, but would it come in time? His eyes closed, again. The forest faded. Not in fear this time, but from the deep exhaustion that only comes when your body is past its breaking point. He didn't know how much time passed, but something woke him. It wasn't a noise. It was absence. Silence, but wrong. He looked up. Kuvu and the others were gone. Panic rose. Then, movement behind the trees. Not lions. Men. Voices. Footsteps. Guns. But not rescuers. One of the poachers must have heard the radio transmission. They were back. Check the body, a voice ordered. Make sure he's really dead. A tall man stepped into view. The one who had chained Elias. Cold, sunburned face. A machete hanging by his side. Well, well, he muttered, seeing Elias still alive. Stubborn bastard. He raised his gun. Elias didn't look away. He was too tired, too broken. But before the man could pull the trigger, a roar ripped through the jungle. It was so loud it shook leaves from the trees. The poacher spun around, gun raised. But he wasn't fast enough. Kuvu burst from the undergrowth like a bullet. He hit the man square in the chest, sending him flying into a tree. Bones cracked. The gun fell. Screams echoed as the other lions emerged. The jungle became chaos, but Elias could only watch, chained and helpless. Blood. Roars. Gunfire. Then silence again. One man ran, disappearing into the trees. Another fell, bleeding. The leader didn't move, and Kuvu, he stood over Elias again, breathing hard, bleeding from his side. He was hurt. Elias shook his head weakly. No, no, no. He had saved him. Again. A sound of engines in the distance broke the silence. Voices. Elias. Ranger. Elias. Uniformed men burst through the trees, rifles, raised, eyes wide. They froze when they saw the lions. But Kuvu didn't growl. He didn't run. He looked at Elias one last time, then slowly turned and walked away into the jungle, his pride following behind. The rescue team rushed in, cutting the chains, catching Elias as he collapsed. He's alive! He's alive! A medic held his face, checking his pulse. Stay with me, Elias. You're safe now. You're okay. But Elias wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on the trees. Where Kuvu had vanished, he whispered almost to himself. He remembered. And then everything went black. When Elias opened his eyes again, it was to the sterile brightness of a hospital ceiling. Clean sheets, IV in his arm. Monitors softly beeping. He blinked, confused, before the memories came flooding back all at once. The chains, the poachers, the lions. Kuvu. He tried to sit up, groaning. A nurse rushed over. Easy, Ranger, you've been out for 2 days. His voice was hoarse. Where are the lions? She paused. Lions? Before she could answer, the door opened. Chief Warden Mathis entered, face lined with worry and something else, awe. You're one damn miracle, Elias, he said, pulling up a chair. You were half dead when they brought you in. Infection in your wrists, internal bruising, but you're stable now. Elias only had one question. The lions. Did they hurt anyone else? Mathis stared at him, then slowly shook his head. No, that's the part nobody believes. Not a single rescue officer was touched. They said the lions had just stood there watching, then disappeared into the trees. Elias looked away, a lump forming in his throat. They protected me. Mathis leaned closer. Son, you were chained up in one of the most dangerous sectors of this forest. There's no patrols out there, no cameras. No way anyone could have survived 2 nights like that. And yet, you did. He paused, voice softening. The bodies we found, one of those men had a gun still clutched in his hand. It was twisted inwards like something had crushed it. The scene was wild. We didn't know what to make of it, but there were lion tracks everywhere. Fresh. Elias smiled faintly, even through the pain. I know what happened. Mathis studied him. And the name you whispered in your sleep, Kuvu. Who is that? Elias closed his eyes. A lion I saved 10 years ago. Weeks passed. The media caught wind of the rescue, but most details were kept quiet. Authorities arrested 2 other poachers found days later. The photos Elias had taken were recovered from the broken phone near the dead body. A full crackdown on the trafficking ring followed. Elias recovered slowly. But his body wasn't what hurt the most. It was his heart. He couldn't stop thinking about them. The way Kuvu had recognized him. The way he had guarded him like family. The way he vanished into the trees, wounded and silent. He needed to see him again. Not for closure. For gratitude. It took nearly 3 months, but one dawn Elias returned to the forest. This time not in uniform, not as a ranger, just as a man. He walked alone, through paths only he and the lions knew, past fallen trees, past old patrol marks, until he reached the spot. The tree where he was once chained still stood, the bark scarred, the ground now covered in fallen leaves and silence. He knelt, ran his hand along the dirt. "I don't know if you'll come," he whispered, "but I'm here." Hours passed. The sun shifted. Birds flew overhead. He waited and waited. Nothing. A gentle breeze rustled the trees. He sighed, stood slowly, about to leave. Then, a sound. Soft. Almost like a whisper. A low rumble. He turned, around, and there he was, Kuvu, older now. His mane fuller. That same scar along his side. He limped slightly, just as before. Elias froze. Tears filled his eyes. But he didn't speak. Kuvu stepped closer, his golden eyes never blinking, and then, just as he had done weeks ago, he leaned his massive head forward and pressed it gently into Elias's chest. Elias broke. He sank to his knees, arms trembling, resting his forehead against the lion's mane. No words, just the quiet sound of a man crying, and a lion standing perfectly still. Behind them, in the shadows of the trees, other lions began to appear, silent, majestic, watchful. But none moved forward. Only Kuvu stood by him. Only Kuvu remembered. Later that day, as the sun dipped low and Elias began the slow walk back, he looked over his shoulder one last time. Kuvu stood at the edge of the trees, still watching him, not following, not needing to, just watching. And as their eyes met for one final time, Elias nodded, a promise made, a bond kept, forever.